Welcome to a deep dive into one of the most counterintuitive ideas in macroeconomics: how money is actually created. Most people think central banks print money, hand it to citizens, and that is the story. In reality, the central bank only creates a small foundation called the monetary base, and then the commercial banking system multiplies that foundation many times over through the process of lending and redepositing. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how a single 1,000-shekel deposit at a commercial bank can give birth to 10,000 shekels of total money in the economy, and you will know the precise mathematical formula that governs this expansion. We will define every term, walk through every step, work through full numerical examples, and connect the theory to real central bank policy. This is essential macro plumbing, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Section 1. What is money and what does it do? Before we can talk about how money is created, we need to be precise about what money actually is. Economists define money by what it does, not by its physical form. Money serves three core functions. First, it is a medium of exchange. Instead of bartering chickens for shoes, we trade everything through money. This dramatically lowers transaction costs and makes a modern economy possible. Second, it is a unit of account. Prices are quoted in money. Contracts are written in money. Debts are denominated in money. This common yardstick lets us compare values across very different goods. Third, it is a store of value. Money holds purchasing power over time, at least when inflation is low. You can sell something today and buy something else next month, with the money holding its value in between. Anything that performs these three functions reasonably well qualifies as money. Historically, that meant gold and silver coins. Today, it means central bank notes plus, far more importantly, the deposits sitting in your bank account. Section 2. The three money measures: M0, M1, M2. To analyze money in a modern economy, we use three nested measures, each broader than the last. The narrowest measure is M0, also called the monetary base or high-powered money. It includes only the physical currency in circulation plus the reserves that commercial banks hold at the central bank. This is the money the central bank itself creates directly. M1 is broader. It adds checking account deposits, the money you can spend immediately with a debit card or check. M2 is broader still. It adds savings deposits and money market accounts. For most macro purposes, M1 is the working definition of the money supply, because it captures everything you can actually spend right now. The crucial insight is that M1 is many times larger than M0, typically 5 to 10 times larger. The gap between the small monetary base and the much larger money supply is created entirely by commercial banks, through the lending process we are about to dissect. Section 3. Fractional reserve banking, the foundation of modern money. Modern banks operate under a system called fractional reserve banking. When you deposit 1,000 shekels into your checking account, the bank does not lock that money in a vault and wait for you to withdraw it. Instead, the bank keeps only a small fraction as reserves and lends the rest out as loans. This fraction is called the reserve ratio. In a typical economy, the reserve ratio might be 10%, meaning the bank holds 100 shekels and lends out 900 shekels. The borrowed 900 shekels gets spent and then redeposited into another bank account somewhere in the system. That second bank now has 900 shekels in new deposits, keeps 10% as reserves, and lends out the remaining 810 shekels. That 810 gets spent and redeposited, and so on and so on. This cascade is the engine of money creation. The original 1,000 shekels of monetary base has spawned multiple rounds of new deposits, and those new deposits are money. Section 4. The T-account walkthrough. To make this concrete, let us draw the T-accounts for the first three banks in the cascade. Start with Bank A. Bank A receives a fresh deposit of 1,000 shekels from a customer who walked in with cash from the central bank. On the liabilities side of Bank A's balance sheet, we record 1,000 in customer deposits. On the assets side, Bank A keeps 100 shekels as required reserves and lends out 900 shekels to a borrower. The borrower walks out with 900 shekels in cash, spends it on a refrigerator, and the refrigerator seller deposits the 900 shekels into Bank B. Bank B's balance sheet now shows 900 in deposits as a liability, 90 in required reserves, and 810 lent out to a new borrower. That borrower spends the 810, the recipient deposits it into Bank C, and Bank C records 810 in deposits, 81 in reserves, 729 in new loans. The chain continues. Each round, the new deposit is 90% of the previous round. The total money in the system grows step by step. Section 5. The money multiplier formula. We do not need to draw infinite T accounts. We can solve the cascade with one beautiful formula. The total money supply equals the monetary base multiplied by the money multiplier. The multiplier in its simplest form equals 1 divided by the reserve ratio. If the reserve ratio is 10%, 0.10, then the multiplier is 1 divided by 0.10, which equals 10. 1,000 shekel monetary base creates a 10,000 shekel money supply. A more realistic formula accounts for the fact that the public chooses to hold some money as cash rather than depositing all of it. Let C be the currency to deposits ratio chosen by the public, and let R be the reserve ratio chosen by banks. Then the multiplier equals 1 plus C, divided by C plus R. This formula captures both leakages, cash held by the public and reserves held by banks. The smaller these two leakages are, the larger the multiplier becomes, and the larger the money supply for a given monetary base. Section 6. A full numerical example. Let us run the numbers. Assume the central bank creates 1 billion shekels of monetary base by buying government bonds from the market. Assume the public's currency ratio C is 20%, 0.20. Assume the banking system's reserve ratio R is 10%, 0.10. The multiplier is 1 plus 0.20 divided by 0.20 plus 0.10. That is 1.20 divided by 0.30, which equals 4. The total money supply will be 4 billion shekels, 4 times the monetary base. Now suppose the central bank lowers the reserve requirement to 5%. The new multiplier is 1.20 divided by 0.25, which equals 4.8. The same 1 billion monetary base now produces 4.8 billion of money supply. By lowering the reserve ratio, the central bank has expanded the money supply by 20% without printing a single additional banknote. This is exactly the mechanism behind central bank policy. Section 7. The limits of money creation. The cascade is not infinite in the real world. 3 forces limit how far money creation can go. First, public preferences. If consumers decide to hold more cash and fewer deposits, C rises, the multiplier shrinks, and money supply contracts even with the same monetary base. This is exactly what happens in a banking panic. Depositors withdraw cash, the multiplier collapses, and the broad money supply contracts sharply. Second, bank behavior. Banks may choose to hold excess reserves above the legal minimum, either for safety or because lending opportunities are weak. Higher R means a lower multiplier. This is exactly what happened after 2008. Banks parked trillions of excess reserves at the central bank rather than lending, and the multiplier collapsed even as the monetary base exploded through quantitative easing. Third, borrower demand. Banks cannot create deposits if no one wants to borrow. In deep recessions, even at very low interest rates, borrowers stay on the sidelines. All 3 forces explain why the simple textbook multiplier overstates how powerful monetary base expansion actually is in a crisis. Section 8. Why this matters for policy. Now you can see why the relationship between monetary base and money supply is central to modern macro policy. The central bank controls the monetary base directly. It can buy or sell bonds and change the reserves in the system at the click of a button. But the money supply that affects spending, inflation, and growth depends on the multiplier, which depends on public preferences, bank behavior, and borrower demand. When the multiplier is stable, money supply tracks monetary base reliably, and the central bank can target money growth. When the multiplier is unstable, particularly during crises, the link between monetary base and money supply breaks down. This is the deepest reason central banks today target interest rates rather than money supply directly. They have learned that the cascade we just walked through cannot always be relied on. Conclusion. You now understand the most important plumbing in macroeconomics. The central bank creates the monetary base directly, physical currency plus bank reserves. Commercial banks multiply that base through fractional reserve lending, with each new loan creating a new deposit somewhere else in the system. The total money supply equals the monetary base times the money multiplier, 1 plus C over C plus R. The multiplier shrinks when the public holds more cash, when banks hold more reserves, or when borrower demand collapses. This framework explains both normal monetary policy and the strange dynamics of crisis episodes when traditional tools stop working. In Part 2 of this series, we will examine the reserve buffer that banks hold above the legal minimum, why central banks care about it, and the specific tools they use to influence the multiplier and the money supply. If you found this video useful, please share it with anyone studying macro, and subscribe to Macroeconomics with Michael for the rest of the series.